Thank you very, very much. Thank you. There are so many friends in this room right now. I know you're all here just to see me. Thank you.
I helped.
Yeah, you did. I cannot thank you enough. You have sustained us. You have helped us. You've been our supporters for our campaign and for our mission to bring sensible gun violence prevention, Medicaid expansion that actually helps 5,600 of our neighbors and friends in the 49th district. Woo! You know, and to finally get the DREAM Act passed in Virginia. And to send a message that what's happening across the river is not okay. See are so ugly, so divisive, so wrong-headed. And there are members of the Republican caucus in the House of Delegates who are trying to replicate that on an almost daily basis in the House of Delegates. They're taking sensible environmental safeguard legislation and just defeating it out of hand. They're taking sensible gun violence prevention legislation and defeating it. Over 70 bills this just year at 6:30 in the morning in subcommittee. And they're decimating the social safety net. I've said this before, a lot of you know this story, but a lot of people in this community knew my mom. My mom was Emma and my mom worked together. And my mom was a 4'11" comet bolt of energy. And she was a teacher and a guidance counselor at W&L High School. And she was the kind of teacher where, she worked with ESL and HILT kids for 32 years. Before we called them dreamers, she was helping them get into college and pay for college. She was the kind of teacher where, realizing that kids were not eating on long weekends, I'd come home from school and grad school and law school and there'd be 50 kids in my backyard for a 3-day barbecue. She was that kind of teacher. And not as many people knew about my dad. My dad was one of 22 brothers and sisters from the same parents. My grandmother had her first child when she was 14, her last child when she was 44 years old. My dad did not want to be a farmer in the Andes Mountains of Venezuela. He saved up $260 in 1950s money with a dream of a better life to come to America. He worked as a busboy and as a waiter. He learned English. He graduated from Northern Virginia Community College when I was 5 years old. Then took one class a semester every year at George Mason until he graduated from college 1 month before I graduated from high school. And then he didn't stop. Every single relative, every single friend in Venezuela that wanted an education in the United States, over 60 of them, came and lived at our house. Came and stayed with us. And then went back to Venezuela or wherever they wanted to go and really had their worlds completely changed. These are the parents I was lucky enough to grow up with. And they're the people who instilled the values in me to try to make Virginia a better place. Because what we've been experiencing for the last couple decades are not who we are as Virginians. We're better than this. And one man really made it happen. He really brought it all together. And I was lucky enough to work on his staff for 4 years as the head of Congressional and Federal Affairs for Virginia. And he doesn't know this, but every time I talk to him, I get nervous. He's incredibly kind and generous, and it freaks me out. I'm used to politicians on Capitol Hill who are not kind and generous. I worked up there for 27 years. No one was like this guy. I thought it was an act. It's not an act. And what I found about him was that he's the touchstone. He's the real deal.
Yep.
I was going to tell a story. I was in Speaker Pelosi's office, and they were talking about people on Barack Obama's short list for vice president in 2008. Remember, there were 35 names, and then there were 21, then there were 19, then there were 12, then there were 12, then there were 12, then there were 9. And Tim Kaine's name was on that list. And there were members of the Pelosi leadership team who were saying, who the hell is Tim Kaine? They wanted somebody else to be the vice president in 2008. And then they met Tim Kaine. And they didn't know who I was. But I'm privy to their conversations. I'm listening to their conversations. And after they met Tim Kaine, 6 days later, oh yeah, Tim Kaine is a real deal. He's a real deal. Everyone who meets this man understands what our future should be. Generous, kind, brilliant, dynamic, caring.
Habla español.
Habla español. Mejor que yo. Mejor que yo. And if there was justice in the world, the Vice President of the United States.
Yes.
I give you our senator, my hero, Tim Kaine.